There is something about these two figures that is deeply unsettling. They stand upright, facing each other, inside a small underground room beneath a chapel in Naples. At first glance, from across the room, they could almost be mistaken for medical models, anatomical teaching tools, the kind of thing you might find in an old university lecture hall. Then you get closer, and you realize the veins are still there. The arteries, the capillaries branching out across every bone in impossibly fine detail, wrapping around a real human skeleton standing perfectly upright, as if it had simply decided to stay that way. For nearly 300 years, almost everyone who saw these two figures believed they were looking at murder. These are the anatomical machines of the San Severo Chapel. They were created sometime in the mid-18th century, commissioned by Raimondo de Sangro, Prince of San Severo, the same nobleman responsible for the Veiled Christ and the marble net sculpture that have made this chapel one of the strangest places in Italy. But the anatomical machines are not marble. They are something else entirely. Two real human skeletons, a man and a woman, each fitted with an artificial circulatory system so detailed that it reproduces the smallest visible blood vessels in the human body. Veins climb across the ribs. Arteries trace down the legs. The entire arrangement is anatomically accurate enough that the figures have been studied and photographed by medical professionals for centuries. For most of that time, nobody could agree on how they were made or what they actually were. The legend that grew up around them is genuinely horrifying. Raimondo was already known throughout Naples as something close to a sorcerer, an alchemist, the Grand Master of the Neapolitan Masonic Lodge, a man whose experiments produced fireworks that sounded like birdsong and a carriage that crossed the Bay of Naples on cork wheels. So when these two impossibly detailed figures appeared in his family chapel, the explanation people reached for was not scientific. It was the only kind of explanation that seemed to fit a man like him. The rumor spread that the prince had injected two of his own servants with a secret chemical formula, a substance that solidified their blood from the inside out, killing them while preserving their entire circulatory system in perfect, lifelike detail. According to the story, the two servants had been alive when the process began. This was not a fringe theory whispered by a handful of superstitious visitors. It was repeated for generations. Tour guides told it as fact. Locals avoided the chapel after dark. The idea that a nobleman had murdered two living people to create an anatomical display became, for nearly 3 centuries, the accepted explanation for what stood in that room. The real explanation took until the 21st century to confirm. In 2007, researchers Lucia Dome and Renata Peters conducted a full scientific analysis of the figures. What they found was, in some ways, almost as strange as the legend itself. The veins and arteries were not biological at all. They were artificial, constructed from silk, wax, and iron wire, built layer by layer directly onto real human skeletons that had likely been obtained through entirely legal means, common practice for anatomical study in the 18th century. No murdered servants, no secret chemical formula, just an extraordinarily skilled craftsman, believed to be Giuseppe Salerno, a doctor working under Raimondo's direction, recreating the human circulatory system by hand with a level of anatomical precision that still impresses medical researchers studying it today. The truth removed the murder. It did not remove the unease. Because here is what the science does not explain. Why did Raimondo want this at all? Some historians read the anatomical machines as pure Enlightenment curiosity. The 18th century was obsessed with understanding the inner mechanics of the human body, and a prince fascinated by alchemy, science, and the boundary between life and death would naturally want to study and display exactly how a body functions beneath the skin. In this reading, the figures are simply the most extreme expression of a very real scientific interest of the era. Others see something darker. Raimondo placed these figures in his family chapel, a space dedicated to memory, mortality, and the soul's journey beyond death. Positioned just steps from the veiled Christ, a sculpture depicting a body in the exact moment between life and the afterlife. The anatomical machines may have been intended as a deliberate counterpoint, where the veiled Christ shows a body cloaked in mystery and faith. The anatomical machines strip the body down to pure exposed mechanism. No soul, no spirit, just the wiring underneath. Whether that contrast was intentional is something Raimondo never explained. He rarely explained any of his work. He seemed to prefer that visitors arrive at their own conclusions, uncomfortable as those conclusions might be. What makes these figures more unsettling than almost anything else in the chapel is exactly what made the murder legend so easy to believe in the first place. They do not look like models. They look like the moment after. The veins are too fine. The detail is too complete. Standing in front of them, even knowing the science, even knowing it is silk and wax and wire, the body still reacts before the mind catches up. Two real human skeletons, fitted with an artificial circulatory system, more detailed than anything else produced in that century. Standing upright in a small stone room beneath a chapel that already houses some of the strangest sculptures ever carved. The truth turned out to be wax and wire rather than murder. Whether that makes them less terrifying or simply terrifying in a different way is something I'd love to hear your take on in the comments.